Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. Recently, Amazon released a series called Utopia. This is actually a remake from a BBC version in the United Kingdom that was released about 5 years ago. I actually did a video on the series over on my KJ Osborne channel. I'll leave a link below under the player if you want to check that out, because that series as well was filled with symbolism. Even right here is a screenshot from the first episode of the original series, and you can see right here on this guy's shirt, he's wearing the as above, so below. The two pyramids connected at the apex, forming the diamond, male and female. The new series is filled with symbolism, and the old series was as well. I wanted to cover this series with you because it's filled with lesser magic and predictive programming. I've covered these types of shows for years here on the channel. And it's important to know that, of course, not every show is filled with this kind of symbolism. But this show is very much aligned with beast system entertainment. But it's much more than entertainment, it really is a form of magic. We always find the same symbolism related to this specific type of programming. The reason I consider this series predictive programming and lesser magic is because it's all about a virus. More importantly, it's about the vaccines. This is all about an egomaniacal mad scientist who wants to place a virus inside a vaccine and trick the population to taking the vaccine. Once they do, they'll be wiped out. And the reason why? Well, there's too many humans on the planet. It's all about eugenics, about killing off a large portion of the population. And we see headlines in the real world every day related to this very same agenda. This is one of those shows that really is heavily coded, and there's a lot of this symbolism throughout. But for me to show you every single moment of that would take a really long time. So I want to show you some of the main points of this series that are actually lining up with our reality now, and also some of the symbols that are a bit more obvious throughout the series. After that, I want to show you a few other examples of where these types of symbols are showing up, because it's everywhere. And again, I've talked about this for many years. And you've seen throughout the years how much this symbolism has grown exponentially. It's everywhere now. It's mainstream. Satanism, the occult, has gone mainstream. When watching season 1 of Utopia, the American version, every single episode starts off with this message. This program is a work of fiction and not based on actual, related, or current events. It contains scenes that some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Most important line here is this program is a work of fiction and not based on actual, related, or current events. Meanwhile, this entire series is based on actual, current events that are taking place. Essentially, the entire series is about a mad scientist that's creating a vaccine for a virus. And as the story unfolds, we find out that he's actually putting the virus in the vaccine. His ultimate goal is to wipe out a large portion of society with this, and whatever's left remaining, he will be in control of, using various mind control techniques, as evidenced through his own personal network of mind-controlled slaves. But don't worry, this program is just fiction, not based on anything actual or related or even current events. So the very first screen is the first lie. This is why for years I've been exposing the same symbols throughout all media, movies, TV shows, commercials. We always find the same symbols attached to certain media. This sequence takes place early on in the series, and they start explaining the comic book and the characters within that of course turn out to be real life characters. This is a doctor character that works with Mr. Rabbit, who's the big bad guy in the series. But as you'll see, once they reveal the doctor in the comics, the two different pictures we have of him, in both, it's referencing the one eye, the all-seeing eye. And in fact, in the second sequence, we actually see him with his hand over one eye, which is one of the most common signs we've seen in many celebrities, and politicians who have sold out to this beast system. Later on in this sequence, as they're showing pages of the comic and showing the actual characters that exist, also find out that this doctor who is under control of Mr. Rabbit is responsible for creating all of the viruses that have hit our planet over the last few decades. And this right here is the exact moment where they're breaking this down and explaining who's behind all the viruses. As they do that, they show us this image right here, which of course is another one-eye symbol, all-seeing eye. Here's a sequence that's taking place between two conspiracy theorists. And of course on the wall you see the all-seeing eye and the sun symbol there. And then once you get a wider shot of this room, you can see between the two men and up on the wall, they got the Denver International Airport sign, which of course is another one of those examples of hidden in plain sight. Here's a good scene that takes place early on, and it's an experience that many of you have had. I've had this experience many times myself. So in this sequence, you have this young girl who's figuring out that Utopia is actually real, trying to convince these comic book fanboys. She's trying to explain to them that everything that's in the comics is actually real, that everything's being revealed to us through entertainment. And this is something we talk about on this channel all the time, because this is the way it actually works. And the response she gets from these fanboys are these people who are locked in to the beast system, completely unaware of what's happening.
Ebola, MERS, Zika. Someone is taking diseases and weaponizing them. You guys are obsessing over stories? Guys, Jessica Hyde isn't real. But you know what is real? The disease is hidden in Dystopia.
God, you're one of those, huh?
Signs and portents. It all has to mean something.
It does mean something. Look, 8 on this branch, 1 on this one. 8 infected, 1 dead in Uganda.
Here's another sequence where they're going through the comic and they find this hidden message. This is our undoing, along with the symbol for the virus. And ultimately, this is the virus that is going to be used for humanity's undoing. In this sequence, you get a glimpse of John Cusack's character, who actually plays Mr. Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit is truly the evil genius behind this plan to depopulate the planet. So of course we shouldn't be surprised that the symbol for his company is Saturn. It's the hexagon of Saturn. And even more interesting, we have the phoenix rising out of one of those symbols for Saturn, which, if you've been paying attention all these years, and I know you have, we've covered that for a very long time here. The phoenix is another very prominent symbol of this New World Order and of the beast system itself. The whole idea, of course, is order out of chaos. They need to destroy everything so they can rise from the ashes like a phoenix anew and have this fully instituted Antichrist beast system. Now here's another sequence where they use the hexagon of Saturn, Saturn symbolism. Saturn equals Satan. This shot lasted all of 2 or 3 seconds, but just another example of how they'll constantly be sliding these symbols in one way or the other. Something else we find out about Mr. Rabbit, or this mad scientist, is that his company that exclusively creates vaccines is now getting in the business of creating fake meat. This is also a subject we've covered around here. We're seeing this rise of the fake meat. We're seeing major restaurant chains offering fake meat. We're also hearing more and more about these looming food shortages. So is this all just a coincidence? Or does it seem that here in the near future, many of the masses who can no longer afford food or can't find food will be fed with this government-produced fake meat? Also, in the real world, we know that there is a real history of many of these big corporations putting things in vaccines that shouldn't be there. The virus itself, other chemicals that can harm humanity.
Play devil's advocate here. Are we, in a way, testing this on children? I mean, poor children?
No.
This here was an interesting sequence as well. This is a moment where they're talking about the actual false flag they used by poisoning the food they were giving to children. And they even used the term false flag. But as they reveal this, they stand directly underneath the pyramid structure. One of the telltale signs of any media that's controlled by these secret societies are their symbols. And of course, in this series, time and time again, we find the checkerboard floor. Right here, they snuck one in on the wall just behind this character. During this sequence right here, we have a sun subliminal. Here's another sequence with more sun symbolism, but this sun symbolism is connected to the virus, the crown virus. Here's a sequence where the mind control, the Monarch mind control, is revealed. We find out that many of the children that are raised under this organization that Mr. Rabbit runs are completely committed to Mr. Rabbit, to the point where they will actually sacrifice their own lives.
How many people get to fulfill their purpose in life?
A majority of victims and survivors of MKUltra mind control come from multi-generational satanic families or bloodlines, and they're ostensibly programmed to fill their destiny as the chosen ones or chosen generations. Also, many of the abused come from families who use Catholicism, Mormonism, and even charismatic Christianity as a front for their activities. Non-biological twinning is yet another bizarre feature observed within Monarch programming. Within the Illuminati, they create trauma-bonded counterparts. The other person is seen as a mirror, and they call them their twin. They teach them that love and pain are equal, because we know that Satanism expects everything to be upside down, inverted.
You were supposed to be a twin, you know that?
Here's another sequence with that sun symbolism. You can see on the TV screen they have that sign that says truth, red and yellow, looks like a sun, but it's supposed to be a virus. But once again, we understand that in these kinds of films, in this kind of entertainment, we'll find multiple symbols. You know, sometimes a sun is just the sun, or a triangle is just a triangle. We find a series like this that literally has a New World Order agenda. Of course, we're going to find a lot of these symbols. Not just one, but multiple. So it's interesting they have this sign with the sun symbol, truth. In this scene, they're inside the room of a trained killer they call RB. And RB stands for Raisin Boy. And throughout the series, he's killing people off for Mr. Rabbit. And it's very clear that this man is under a form of mind control. Every time he kills people, he'll show back up to see Mr. Rabbit again, and Mr. Rabbit always gives him a little box of raisins. But what I want you to notice here, again, is the symbolism. The sun symbolism with the raisins, of course. Now look up to the top right, and we have Saturn. So once again, these are two very common symbols we find in this New World Order entertainment, if you will, or predictive programming. So once again, we talk of predictive programming, and this sequence right here mirrors what's happening in reality right now in many ways. In this sequence, the people are now begging for a vaccine. In fact, in just a little bit, they all start taking a knee while they're begging for the vaccine. Mr. Rabbit even says something kind of strange to the good guy scientist in this sequence.
Glad to have you back on the side of the angels, Mike.
I've always been on the side of the...
On our knees, we beg you! Free the vaccine! Free the vaccine! Free the vaccine! Free the vaccine! Free the vaccine!
What I'm about to show you here is a sequence that takes place in tons of movies and TV shows. I see it all the time. What they'll do is they will go from a subliminal sun symbol directly to a pyramid, and usually it's characters. They'll follow characters from a subliminal sun to a subliminal pyramid. And here's another example. They'll go from a subliminal sun to a pyramid, and then the next frame will be another subliminal sun. And then just a few minutes after the pyramid and sun subliminal, we have the Masonic floor. Now I'm going to show you another sequence that takes place, and this is another type of a sequence I see in lots of this occult entertainment. They will go from one frame to the next, showing the same symbol. So right here on her shirt, you see the sun symbol. She gets into a fight with Arby, Raisin Boy, the professional hitman. Then after kicking him, the next sequence shows him falling with a sun symbol just over his shoulder. Now you see the sun symbol just above his head. It happens quick, but we go from the sun symbol to the floor with the Masonic checkerboard. Here's another setup that's very clever in my opinion, but completely Masonic. You have the woman over on the left side standing on the Masonic checkerboard floor. You have the man on the right underneath the arches. At the end of each episode, they'll show different panels from the comic. And you'll notice that many of these panels contain butterflies. Monarch butterfly is the symbol for Monarch mind control. Now check out this sequence and the subliminal 666 that they hide within. Now notice the 6 holes on the box. So here's the sequence. You have the box in center frame with the 6 holes. You're also going to get all-seeing eyes with this as well. And notice when the other boxes come into the sequence from behind, there's only 2 other boxes with holes, and of course each one has 6. Now you're looking at the boardroom for Mr. Rabbit's company. And this right here is Mr. Rabbit's son. And it's interesting we find him between 2 sun symbols in the boardroom. Dozens of young people are being used through this corporation to push propaganda all through social media. And of course the symbols always tell the rest of the story. Of course this propaganda arm of this corporation is going to be filled with the Freemason checkerboard symbols. Here's another one of those sequences where we go from one symbol to the next. So as you can see, he's in the living room. You have the sun symbol just over his left shoulder. He's going to walk from the sun symbol over to another subliminal sun, which is the clock. So as you can see, this series is lining up perfectly with our reality right now, with what's taking place in the world. And speaking of symbols, there's a few more recent examples I want to show you of these same symbols showing up in other places. As I say, this is coming out all over the place. This is mainstream now. The occult, Satanism, darkness, wickedness. It's mainstream entertainment. At the same time, it's showing us their agenda for the New World Order, or for this completed Antichrist beast system. There's a new TV series called I Can See Your Voice. So now you can see the fixture just over his shoulder, and that looks like the planet Saturn. And it certainly is the planet Saturn. They make that obvious by showing us the hexagon and the lights. And you can see another Saturn on the podium itself. So speaking of Saturn, I wanted to share this new commercial from TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Home Goods. These 3 companies have joined forces, and they've put out this commercial about a month ago. Where I live, they're playing this commercial non-stop, but the symbolism is going to speak for itself. So we have the all-seeing eye turning into the planet Saturn with the child wearing a cape reaching for it. So I really want to thank you for watching my video. I truly hope it helps you. Take care out there, and until next time, I'll talk to you a little later.
The sickle, ladies and gentlemen, symbolizes Saturn, also known as Kronos, Saturn, or as the Greeks called it, Demiurgos, the operating engineer of the universe, as opposed to the creator of that universe, Satan, Lucifer. In the reign of Saturn, we see exorbitant building and modeling activities, and this is reflected in the Masonic reference to their god as the big builder or architect. And their nickname, the Builders, who erected the Tower of Babel. All this sounds reasonably attractive. Many of us can appreciate magnificent buildings and splendid projects along those lines. But as usual, ladies and gentlemen, there's much more to it than this. You see, that's the exoteric interpretation. Underneath is the truth. How many of you drive Saturns? How many of you drive Mazdas? How many of you even know the origin of those names and what they stand for?